Okay, so the Pokemon games are some of the most beloved games in the world, and ever since 1996, they have been providing us with some amazing content that have served countless hours of fun. From battling, catching Pokemon, the story, or if you just love to spend countless hours torturing yourself to catch shiny Pokemon, I'm pretty sure we can all agree the games are just incredible. And each gen provides something fun and interesting to the table, so in this video, I'll be ranking every Pokemon gen worst to best. Watch the video until the end because your favorite gen might be the best. Who knows? The worst gen in my opinion is Gen 8. This generation has so much potential from the start. It introduced us to the wild area, which is a vast land that you can explore and catch Pokemon at. But that sounds cool and interesting at first, but until you take into account that the Pokemon just didn't interact with you that much, and all they would ever do is chase you a little bit. It had potential, but it just wasn't executed right at all. Gen 8 also introduced Dynamaxing, which was alright. I don't put it in the same boat as Mega Evolutions, but it was still a fun idea and thing to do. And it also just introduced some pretty meh Pokemon. There wasn't really a whole lot of standouts in this gen. The story was also so boring. I couldn't stand Hop at all. But one thing I do really love about Gen 8 is the diverse Pokemon pool you can pick from. There's 400 Pokemon in this game, not counting the DLC, which added even more. So you can pretty much have any Pokemon you want on your journey. Next on the list, we have Gen 9. I feel about the same with this gen as I do with Gen 8, but they did do a lot of really good improvements during this gen that the fanbase enjoys a lot, especially with the recent updates fixing the small things that we've been wanting them to fix in Pokemon for a long time, like making Blastoise shoot out his cannons and all the little things like fixing Charizard's face. This game also introduced Paldean forms, and I like some of them a lot. They shed some light on some of the most unpopular Pokemon to make them feel a lot more special. Terrestrial forms also got added to this gen, which I don't enjoy that much either, just like Dynamaxing, but one thing I do enjoy more about it than Dynamaxing is the ability for it to change typing. It brings a lot more to the table and can really turn the game around with changing your Pokemon's type, so I really do like that idea, and I honestly think they should have came up with this a long time before. Gen 7 is the last pretty good gen, but it's between the line of being good and solid, but it's not as bad as the last two I listed. I really enjoy the tropical atmosphere of Sun and Moon though. I also really like the Alolan forms of the Pokemon in this generation, especially Executor's Alolan form, because I think the backstory of them is also really cool. The starter Pokemon trio was also really good, especially in Incineroar, which is one of my favorite fire type Pokemon of all time. But even the non-starter Pokemon that got added were pretty cool. This generation was just a very solid addition to the series. All the games that came after this just haven't been as good though. But I also forgot to mention Team Skull. They were a really good antagonist for this installment. But next up we have Gen 6. This generation is my favorite of all the 3D era of Pokemon games. Even the trading cards that came out during this time were amazing, and I was a big time collector when X and Y were releasing sets quite a bit. But anyways, X and Y of course introduced the beloved Mega Evolutions. I wish Pokemon would have kept doing Mega Evolutions because the designs were actually phenomenal, and it made Pokemon that just weren't that strong actually usable, like Mega Beedrill. But of course there were some overpowered Megas like Mega Rayquaza who could just team wipe your whole squad with one move. Gen 6 had some mess starters other than Froakie, who of course turns into one of the most popular Pokemon of all time, Greninja. He absolutely carries the starters in this generation, but Generation 6 also adds some of the coolest Pokemon of all time. There are some top tier Pokemon in this generation like Goomy, Honedge, and Phantom, and that's just to name a few on the top of my head. This generation was just like huge stuff from Game Freak. The only con I can think of is the 3D style being introduced, which I don't think Pokemon fans really enjoy, but Gen 6 was really good, guys. It really was. Putting Gen 4 here really breaks my heart because I love it so much, and it was my first Pokemon game I've ever played, but the competition from here on out is insane, and I'm struggling to even rank the games at this point. But anyways, I really love Sinnoh, guys. I've played a ton of Pokemon Pro in the day. Even with BDSP, I've played it a ton. I think Generation 4 has my favorite antagonist too, which is Cyrus. I really love Team Galactic because I'm such a sucker for galaxy themed things. The Team Galactic commanders being named after planets is the icing on the cake for me. But guys, the Pokemon added in this game though are so good and are some of my favorites ever. Like Magmortar, Luxray, Drifloon, Garchomp, Lucario, and Mamoswine. And that's not even all of them. I could go on and on with the amazing Pokemon. Even the iconic Cynthia was in this game, and her incredible team that feels impossible to take down at times. But growing up on this generation was an amazing time to be a Pokemon fan. But here and after all our top tier Pokemon games, like they're all just perfect to be honest. Generation 3 had a close battle with the next gen on this list for for this spot. This is by far one of the hardest generations on this list, and that's what it's notorious for, which I absolutely love. But Generation 3 had Team Magma and Aqua, which are some of the best villains of all time. The Pokemon introduced in this gen were also phenomenal, and I honestly do prefer the Gen 4 Pokemon though a lot more. But Gen 3 still had a really great group of Pokemon that were added. I haven't played through Gen 3 in forever though, so my brain is kind of foggy on most of the details, but this generation is one that I really enjoy and will be playing through again in the future. When I do play through this gen again and one more gen on this list, I might actually end up just doing another ranking because, you know, my opinions might change. But for now, what I'm going on from back then, this is a good place for it in my opinion, and you guys will see the next 3 Pokemon games. So in the comments, tell me what you guys think, and I might be wrong, I might be right, I don't know, you guys tell me. The most iconic generation takes this spot, being Gen 1. I love Gen 1 so much, guys. Some of my top 10 Pokemon are from this generation, which is insane to honestly think about. Being one of the first games and being on this spot of the list is impeccable though. I'm actually replaying Gen 1 right now as well, so I'm not as fogged up as Gen 3 and the next Pokemon game on this list. But this game is honestly so hard, y'all. Like, I didn't even know it was this hard until I started replaying it. I was stuck on Misty for what felt like an eternity, and that was the most frustrated I've ever been from a Pokemon game. And it's even harder that you have to use the Pokemon you want to level up in battle to gain XP, which I honestly wish was still in the newer games to add some more of a challenge. But Gen 1 also had the Chad himself, Giovanni, and Team Rocket, of course, so I don't really need to explain that. I'm pretty sure y'all all know about them. Gen 1 also set such high standards for Pokemon when it was released, and I'm glad it stayed great for so long after this. This game has also paved the way for Pokemon so they could run, and I appreciate it for doing that. Gen 2 is just Gen 1 but upgraded with a brand new story. It's a masterpiece of a game though, don't get me wrong, and introduced one of my favorite legendaries, which is Lugia. But I really don't have too much to say about this masterpiece of a game. You can still go up against Team Rocket in this generation, but you can still get an expansion of Pokemon and gym leaders in this game. But this is just another gen I haven't played in a while, so my brain is kind of foggy, so I honestly don't want to like say something, and honestly this might go down or up, but I think it will stay the same because this is such an amazing generation. But I just haven't played it in forever since I had my DS. The GOAT of Pokemon is of course Gen 5 without a question. I know I say I grew up on Gen 4, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I probably played Gen 5 possibly even more. Pokemon Black and White are just so legendary. All of my favorite Pokemon are basically in this game. I know it gets a lot of made fun of for the designs, but those designs people don't like, I honestly really love. Team Plasma were also some of the best antagonists in the series. I put them in the same category as Team Rocket and Galactic for sure, and it was a really good champion to play against, but I definitely crown Pokemon Black and White the GOATs of Pokemon. Well, those are the generations of Pokemon ranked. Tell me in the comments what your list is. I would love to see them. This list was actually incredibly hard to make, but who knows, maybe years down the line I'll change my mind on some of these games. Maybe even next month I will, once I play these games and all of that. But anyways, this was a really fun video to make, and I hope y'all enjoyed it, and peace out.